Have you guys ever ridden in an ambulance? Or did you know anybody that rode in an ambulance before? I sat here and I thought about, did I have any encounters with an ambulance? I remember when I was about 17 or 18, I called the ambulance myself. I was actually alert while inside the ambulance, which wasn't too far from where I stayed. I had food poisoning, to say the least. And I remember about maybe 3 years ago, when my father had hit his head in the bathroom, I made sure I called the ambulance. And they asked me, did I want to ride in the back with my dad? But I opted to get in my vehicle and follow them to the hospital because I did not want to be without a ride. And those are just my stories of ambulances. However, we know that these paramedics are people that we are supposed to trust, but the way this world is, I'm sorry, it's just scary. It really is. Or I'm going to just use myself. I am always alert, 100% of my surroundings, what's going on. I limit where I go. I limit what time I even leave the house these days. I limit what I do and what I decide to do for a living. I'm currently looking for another job, and I'm always thinking about my safety. I really am. Opposed to when I was maybe 20s, early 30s, I didn't really think about my safety as much. Now, the story I'm bringing you right now, it's horrible. I believe he pronounces his name Melady. If it's not, that's what I'm going to call him. His name is James Melady. He had resigned from Flagler County Fire and Rescue after he failed a drug test. He had been with the department since 2019. Now, during a service call, when he was still employed by Flagler County Fire and Rescue, he picked up a female patient, I guess we will call them, at her residence and would take her to a hospital in the Palm Coast area. She was actually unconscious. And he had this service call on October 17th, 2021. Now, to my knowledge, I always thought that it was more than one paramedics when they rode. It would be one driving and one on the passenger side. I always thought that. And I tried to find as much as I could get on this story, but it's very limited. So on October 17th, 2021, a couple years ago, there was a service call of an unconscious female. Now, that female that was unconscious, however, whatever her situation was at the time, in 2024, she's fine. She's fine. Whatever happened to her, the hospital made her well, okay? And she's fine. Now, on a cell phone call, on a phone belonging to Melady, there's two videos. Two videos of him SAing a female victim that was unconscious. And it was the victim that I was telling you right now in 2024 that is okay. She had to actually look at herself on this video and ID her as the one that was getting SA'd. She had no idea that she had been SA'd. I can't use the R word because I don't want the video to get flagged. But she was SA'd by Melady and didn't even know. Did not even know. You can clearly see him on this video, his face, his body, and his Flagler County uniform, everything. Everything. He said it was him. He said he did it. He pled guilty to that. He said he did it. I mean, how could he not? It's his phone. It's him. So he couldn't. He couldn't. So he was arrested on September 11th and booked into the county jail where he could face up to 30 years in prison. Now, investigators believe that this is not an isolated incident. They actually think that there have been more victims of Meladys. I mean, this happened 3 years ago. No telling. No telling. They actually have a number out there for you to call, the Flagler Police Department, if you believe that you may have been assaulted by this man while you was in his care. He's a whole paramedic. He's supposed to be caring for you until he can get you to the hospital. And he took care of himself until he got her to the hospital. That's why I was like, isn't there supposed to be more than one person in there? But maybe the person was driving and not really paying attention to what he was back there doing. I would think if you just look up real quick, you would see. But look, I'm not certain. This is all that they have in the story, that this woman was violated and she didn't even know. She absolutely did not even know, which is very, very scary. It is. When you are so vulnerable that someone called 911 and maybe that person was, going to meet her up there at the hospital. Because I recall I did that with my dad. When he hit his head, I opted to get in my vehicle so I could make sure I had a ride back home. And I got in my vehicle and I followed them to the hospital. And he was okay afterwards. But, maybe somebody did that and didn't even know. I mean, it could have been her husband, if she was even married, that followed in his vehicle while his wife is being R-worded in the vehicle. He's hoping she's okay, whatever the circumstance is. It wasn't clear on what the circumstance is, and it doesn't even matter what the circumstance was of why she was unconscious. It's the point that help was called and help helped themselves. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Really, I was thinking about, if you guys have been following me and any of my videos, the beginning of the year, I had 2 surgeries on the same day. And I was unconscious, and I'm like, wow, we are put in vulnerable circumstances, especially when we're in a hospital, and you just don't know what's going on with you. Not just looking at any of my videos, but I'm sure the deceased have been SA'd and they're dead. And they have been SA'd and all types of stuff happened to them, when they're dead. We are so vulnerable. And it's so sad that right now when I'm alert and I'm sober and I'm able to look out for myself as best as I can in these circumstances, like if I ever fell unconscious or if I have to go under the knife again and I have to be, sedated or whatever, you just don't know what is going on. And it's just really, really scary. And I'm so glad that Melady is currently in jail. And I hope he's there for what they said, 30 years. That sounds great.